Hello guys. Welcome to the Thoughts Club. Today, we are not talking about a single moment in history. We are talking about a journey that took millions of years. A journey so slow that no one noticed it while it was happening. A journey that begins long before language, before culture, before memory. This is the story of human evolution. To understand human evolution, we must first let go of one idea. The idea that humans appeared suddenly. The idea that there was a clear, first human. There wasn't. Human evolution is not a straight line. It is not a ladder. It is not progress marching forward. It is a branching, uncertain, experimental process. Long before humans existed, Earth itself had to become a place where life could survive. The planet cooled. Oceans formed. Atmosphere changed. For billions of years, life remained simple. Single-celled organisms dominated the planet. They did not think. They did not plan. They simply survived. Slowly, over immense spans of time, life became more complex. Multicellular organisms appeared. Then fish. Then amphibians. Then reptiles. Then mammals. Humans belong to the mammal lineage. Specifically to a group called primates. Primates did not evolve to become human. They evolved to survive in trees. Grasping hands, flexible shoulders, forward-facing eyes, depth perception. These traits were not for tools or intelligence. They were for climbing, reaching, judging distance, and balance. Our story begins here, not with humans, but with early primates living tens of millions of years ago. Around 60 to 70 million years ago, after the extinction of the dinosaurs, mammals began to diversify rapidly. Primates were among them. Small, tree-dwelling creatures, active mostly at night. They lived simple lives. Eating fruit. Avoiding predators. Reproducing. No one at that time could imagine what would eventually come from this lineage. As millions of years passed, primates split into different branches. Some led to monkeys. Some led to apes. Humans belong to the great apes group, along with chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. This is important. Humans did not evolve from chimpanzees. Humans and chimpanzees share a common ancestor. Around 6 to 7 million years ago, that ancestral population split into two paths. One path eventually led to modern chimpanzees. The other path led toward humans. At this point, Earth's climate was changing. Forests were shrinking in some regions. Grasslands were expanding. Some ape populations began spending more time on the ground. This was dangerous. Predators were everywhere. But it also opened new possibilities. One of the most important changes in human evolution happened here: bipedalism. Walking on two legs. This did not happen suddenly. It was not perfect. Early bipedal walking was awkward and inefficient. But it had advantages. Hands were freed. Visibility increased. Long-distance travel became easier. The earliest known hominins, species more closely related to humans than to other apes, appeared during this period. Creatures like Sahelanthropus, Ororan, and Ardipithecus. They were not human. Their brains were small. Their faces were more ape-like. But their skeletons show hints of upright walking. These early hominins lived between 6 and 4 million years ago. They were transitional forms. Experiments in movement, posture, and survival. Evolution does not plan. It tests. Around 4 million years ago, a new group appeared, Australopithecines. These creatures walked upright most of the time. They still climbed trees. Their brains were slightly larger than apes, but still far from human size. They lived in Africa. They used no advanced tools. They had no language. But they survived for over 1 million years. Which means they were successful. Australopithecines show us something important. Big brains came after walking upright. Not before. Human intelligence did not drive early evolution. Survival did. One famous fossil, often mentioned, is Lucy, an Australopithecus afarensis. Lucy lived about 3.2 million years ago. She walked upright. She was short. She had long arms. She was not human. But without beings like Lucy, humans would not exist. For a long time, multiple hominin species lived at the same time. Evolution did not choose one immediately. It explored many possibilities. Some branches ended. Some continued. Around 2.5 million years ago, something new appeared. The first stone tools. Simple tools. Sharp edges made by striking stones together. This marks the beginning of what we call the genus Homo. With tools came changes. Diet expanded. Meat consumption increased. Energy intake increased. And with more energy, brains began to grow. Early members of Homo were still primitive. But they showed a trend. Larger brains. Smaller teeth. More flexible behavior. At this point, evolution began accelerating. Not because it wanted to, but because culture had begun. And culture changes everything. With the appearance of stone tools, evolution crossed a quiet threshold. For the first time, a species was not relying only on its body to survive. It was reshaping the environment, even if in the simplest way. This period marks the emergence of Homo habilis, often called the handyman. Not because these beings were intelligent in the modern sense, but because they were consistently associated with tool use. Homo habilis lived around 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago. Their brains were larger than those of Australopithecines, but still much smaller than ours. Their faces were flatter. Their teeth were smaller. Their hands were more capable of precise movement. These changes were not random. They were connected. Tool use changed diet. Diet changed energy availability. Energy availability changed brain development. Brains are expensive organs. They consume a lot of energy. Evolution does not increase brain size unless there is a clear advantage. Tools provided that advantage. But Homo habilis was still limited. They did not dominate landscapes. They did not travel far. They lived and died in Africa. Then, around 1.9 million years ago, something remarkable happened. A new species appeared, Homo erectus. This was not a small step. It was a transformation. Homo erectus had a body shape very close to modern humans. Long legs. Shorter arms. Efficient upright walking. This body was built for endurance. For traveling long distances. For life in open landscapes. Homo erectus was the first hominin to leave Africa. This alone changes how we understand human evolution. It means early humans were adaptable, curious, in a biological sense, capable of surviving in new climates and environments. They spread into Asia and Europe. They lived in forests, grasslands, and near coastlines. No other hominin before them had done this. Another crucial development occurred during this time: control of fire. Fire did not appear suddenly as a master technology. At first, it was likely used opportunistically. Natural fires. Burning landscapes. But eventually, Homo erectus learned to control it. Fire changed everything. It provided warmth. Protection from predators. Light after sunset. But most importantly, it changed food. Cooking makes food easier to digest. It releases more energy. It reduces disease. This meant brains could grow even more. Fire also changed social life. Groups gathered together at night. Communication increased. Social bonds deepened. The night became part of human life. Homo erectus lived for an incredibly long time. Over 1 million years. This tells us something important. Evolution does not rush. A successful design remains stable. During this long period, brain size continued to increase slowly. Toolmaking became more refined. Social cooperation increased. But Homo erectus was still not human in the modern sense. No art. No symbolic behavior. No complex language. Yet, around 700,000 to 500,000 years ago, human evolution entered another phase. Populations diversified again. From Homo erectus emerged several new lineages. One of these was Homo heidelbergensis. This species had even larger brains, more complex tools, evidence of organized hunting. They hunted large animals cooperatively. This required planning, communication, trust. Social intelligence became as important as physical strength. From Homo heidelbergensis, evolution branched once more. In Europe, one branch led to Neanderthals. In Africa, another branch led toward modern humans, Homo sapiens. This branching is critical to understand. Human evolution was not a straight line toward us. For a long time, multiple human species coexisted. They were cousins, not ancestors and descendants. Neanderthals were not primitive brutes. That image is outdated. They had large brains, sometimes larger than ours. They made sophisticated tools. They cared for injured individuals. They buried their dead. They adapted to cold climates. They survived harsh conditions. They were human in many ways. Meanwhile, in Africa, early Homo sapiens were emerging. Around 300,000 years ago. They had lighter skeletons, more rounded skulls, faces more like ours. But early Homo sapiens were not yet modern in behavior. They still used similar tools to other human species. They did not yet dominate. The major change was not just biological. It was cognitive. Over time, something shifted in the human mind. The ability to think symbolically, to imagine things that were not immediately present, to create shared meaning. This did not happen overnight. It built slowly. Language likely evolved gradually. First gestures, then sounds, then structured communication. Language transformed cooperation. Knowledge could be shared across generations. Skills no longer had to be rediscovered. Culture began accelerating evolution. Around 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens underwent what some researchers call a cognitive revolution. This does not mean a single mutation. It means a threshold was crossed. Art appeared. Jewelry. Symbolic burials. Complex tools. Humans began telling stories. Stories bind groups together. Stories create identity. At this point, evolution was no longer driven only by biology. Culture became dominant. Homo sapiens began spreading rapidly across the planet. They reached Australia, Europe, eventually the Americas. Wherever they went, other human species disappeared. Neanderthals vanished. Denisovans faded. Other hominins ended. This disappearance was not necessarily violent everywhere. Interbreeding occurred. Modern humans still carry Neanderthal DNA. But Homo sapiens became the only surviving human species. From here, evolution continued, but differently. Biology slowed. Culture exploded. Agriculture appeared. Cities formed. Writing emerged. Technology accelerated. All of this rests on the deep evolutionary foundation we have just traced. When Homo sapiens became the only surviving human species, something unusual happened in evolutionary history. For the first time, a species began changing the world faster than the world could change it back. Biological evolution is slow. It works across thousands and millions of years. But culture moves quickly. Ideas spread in days, generations, sometimes moments. This shift marked a turning point. Human evolution did not stop, but it changed direction. Early Homo sapiens were still hunter-gatherers. They lived in small groups. They moved with seasons. They depended directly on ecosystems. Their brains were already large. Their bodies were adapted for endurance, flexibility, and survival. But their way of life kept populations small. For most of human existence, this was normal. In fact, more than 90% of human history was spent as hunter-gatherers. Civilization is extremely recent. Hunter-gatherer humans were not simple. They had deep ecological knowledge. They understood animal behavior, plants, seasons, and landscapes. Their survival depended on observation and memory. This shaped the human brain. Pattern recognition, storytelling, social awareness. These traits were not developed for science or art. They were developed to stay alive. Then, around 12,000 years ago, another major shift occurred. The agricultural revolution. This was not planned. It did not happen everywhere at once. It emerged independently in different regions. Humans began domesticating plants and animals. This changed everything. Agriculture created food surplus. Surplus allowed population growth. Population growth led to permanent settlements. Villages formed. Then towns. Then cities. But this came with costs. Early agricultural humans were often less healthy than hunter-gatherers. Their diets were less varied. Diseases spread more easily in dense populations. Work became repetitive and physically demanding. Evolution did not design humans for farming. Farming forced humans into a new lifestyle. Yet agriculture persisted because it supported more people. Evolution favors reproduction, not comfort. With agriculture came social complexity, property, hierarchy, specialization. Not everyone needed to hunt anymore. Some people became builders, others leaders, others priests, others soldiers. Culture became layered. At this point, human evolution became increasingly social and psychological. Traits like cooperation, conformity, and obedience gained importance. So did ambition, competition, and aggression. Human brains adapted not just to nature, but to other humans. This is a critical shift. For most animals, the environment is the main challenge. For humans, other humans became the environment. As civilizations grew, writing appeared. Writing allowed information to exist outside the brain. Knowledge could accumulate. Mistakes could be corrected. Ideas could survive individuals. This further reduced the pressure on biological evolution. Brains did not need to become larger. They needed to become more efficient at learning. Over time, natural selection in humans weakened in some areas and strengthened in others. Medical care allowed traits that once would have been fatal to persist. Social systems protected individuals who would not survive alone. This does not stop evolution. It redirects it. Human evolution did not end with civilization. It became more subtle. Changes in immunity, metabolism, brain chemistry, adaptations to diet, climate, and disease continued. But the most powerful evolutionary force was now culture. Technology accelerated this process dramatically. Tools became machines. Machines became systems. Systems became networks. Humans began outsourcing memory, calculation, navigation, and even decision-making. Brains adapted to constant information flow. Attention became a limited resource. This created a new evolutionary pressure. Not survival from predators, but survival in complexity. Stress, social comparison, cognitive overload. Modern humans face challenges no previous species ever encountered. From an evolutionary perspective, the modern world is extremely unnatural. Artificial light, constant noise, sedentary lifestyles, abundant calories. Our bodies and brains are still largely adapted to a hunter-gatherer world. This mismatch explains many modern problems: anxiety, depression, obesity, sleep disorders. These are not personal failures. They are evolutionary side effects. Human evolution, then, is not a story of constant improvement. It is a story of trade-offs. Every adaptation solves one problem and creates another. Walking upright freed the hands but damaged the spine. Large brains enabled culture but increased childbirth risks. Social bonding created cooperation but also conflict. Understanding human evolution helps us understand ourselves. Why we crave meaning. Why we fear isolation. Why stories move us more than facts. Why belonging matters so deeply. These are not cultural accidents. They are evolutionary inheritances. As humans entered the modern era, evolution did not disappear. It became quieter, more complex, and harder to see. Natural selection still operates, but its forces are now tangled with culture, technology, and choice. For most of evolutionary history, survival depended on physical traits: strength, speed, endurance, resistance to disease. Today, survival depends far more on social and cognitive traits. The ability to learn quickly, to adapt mentally, to manage stress, to cooperate with large numbers of unrelated individuals. Modern humans live inside systems far larger than themselves. Nations, economies, digital networks. Our ancestors evolved in groups of maybe 30 to 150 people. Our brains are still tuned to that scale. This creates tension. We care deeply about social approval. We compare ourselves constantly. We react emotionally to abstract threats. These reactions once kept us alive. Now they are triggered by emails, screens, and distant events. From an evolutionary perspective, the modern world is overwhelming. Information moves faster than instinct can process. Decisions affect millions instead of a small group. Consequences are delayed and indirect. Yet the same brain that once tracked animals across plains now tries to navigate algorithms and artificial environments. This mismatch does not mean humans are failing. It means evolution did not anticipate this pace of change. Evolution works by gradual adjustment. Technology works by sudden leaps. The gap between biology and environment has never been wider. One of the most significant evolutionary shifts in modern humans is self-awareness. Not just awareness of the environment, but awareness of oneself as an object in time. Humans think about their past and future. They imagine themselves from the outside. They worry about meaning. This capacity likely emerged gradually alongside language and storytelling. Stories allowed humans to place themselves inside narratives. Personal identity formed. Cultural identity followed. Identity became something inherited, taught, and defended. Tribes expanded into nations. Myths expanded into ideologies. Beliefs became markers of belonging. These systems helped large groups cooperate. But they also created division. From an evolutionary view, conflict is not a failure of humanity. It is a side effect of social bonding. Strong us creates strong them. As technology advanced, humans began modifying their environment faster than their genes could respond. Clothing replaced fur. Fire replaced biological warmth. Medicine replaced natural immunity. Selection pressures softened in some areas and intensified in others. For example, infectious diseases became one of the strongest evolutionary forces in human history. Entire populations were shaped by plagues. Genetic resistance to certain diseases spread rapidly where survival depended on it. At the same time, modern medicine began protecting individuals who would not survive under natural selection alone. This is not a flaw. It is a moral choice. But it changes evolution. Traits are no longer filtered purely by survival. They persist because society chooses to protect. Evolution is becoming ethical, not just biological. Another major shift is reproductive choice. For most of history, reproduction was not planned. It happened naturally and frequently. Today, humans choose when and whether to reproduce. This changes evolutionary pressure dramatically. Traits linked to education, social stability, and long-term planning now influence reproduction more than physical strength. Evolution is moving inward. At the same time, humans have begun manipulating genetics directly. Gene editing, selective reproduction, artificial embryos. For the first time, a species can influence its own genetic future intentionally. This raises questions evolution never had to answer before. Should humans change themselves? What counts as improvement? Who decides? Evolution used to be blind. Now it is being watched. And possibly guided. Looking ahead, the future of human evolution may not be biological at all. It may be technological integration. Brains connected to machines. Memory enhanced externally. Artificial intelligence assisting decision-making. Humans may become a hybrid species. Not through mutation, but through augmentation. This does not mean humanity will disappear. It means the definition of human will expand. Just as Homo sapiens once replaced earlier human species, future forms may replace us. Not violently, but gradually, through adaptation. From the perspective of deep time, this is normal. No species is permanent. No form is final. Homo sapiens has existed for about 300,000 years. That is a brief moment in evolutionary history. Understanding this can feel unsettling. But it can also feel grounding. We are part of a long process, not the endpoint. When we look far enough into the future, human evolution stops feeling personal. It becomes geological, planetary, cosmic. This is important because evolution has never cared about individuals. It works on populations across vast spans of time. So to understand where humans may be going, we must think the way evolution thinks. Slowly, without emotion, without attachment. One of the most likely futures for human evolution is divergence. Not all humans will experience the same environments. Some will live in dense technological cities. Some may live in space habitats. Some may adapt to harsh climates on Earth. Different pressures create different adaptations. Given enough time, this leads to variation. And variation is the raw material of evolution. If humans spread beyond Earth, something fundamental changes. Space is not Earth. Lower gravity alters bone density and muscle structure. Radiation affects DNA. Closed environments change immunity. Over thousands of years, these pressures would shape bodies and minds differently. Space-adapted humans might be taller, lighter, with altered physiology. Earth-adapted humans might remain closer to current form. This is how new species form, not suddenly, but gradually. Speciation does not require drama. It happens when populations stop interbreeding for long enough. Distance, technology, cultural separation. Any of these can create isolation. From an evolutionary perspective, future humans may not all be one species. Just as once, multiple human species existed together. Another possible future is genetic convergence, not divergence. Technology may reduce environmental differences. Climate-controlled habitats, medical intervention, genetic correction. In this case, humans may become more similar biologically, not less. Evolution slows when variation decreases. But even then, evolution does not stop. It moves into subtler traits: brain chemistry, cognition, emotion regulation. The human brain itself may continue evolving, not necessarily becoming larger, but becoming more specialized. Better emotional control, reduced aggression, improved cooperation. These traits already matter more for survival than physical strength. Evolution favors what works in the current environment. And the current environment is social. However, there is a tension here. Human culture evolves faster than human biology. This means humans often live in worlds they are not adapted for. We see this in modern stress, chronic anxiety, loneliness in crowds. From an evolutionary lens, these are not moral failures. They are transitional symptoms. The brain is catching up. There is also a more radical possibility that biological evolution becomes irrelevant. Humans may replace slow genetic change with rapid technological change. Artificial intelligence, neural implants, synthetic bodies. If minds can be transferred or extended beyond biology, evolution changes category. Selection no longer favors genes. It favors systems. This would be unprecedented in Earth's history. No species has ever escaped biology. If this happens, human evolution merges with technological evolution. The line between organism and tool dissolves. At that point, asking, "What will humans become?" is like asking, "What will intelligence become?" The answer is open. Now zoom out further. Much further. Think in millions of years again. Species rise. Species disappear. Earth itself changes. Continents drift. Climates shift. No species survives forever. This includes humans. From a deep time perspective, extinction is normal. Over 99% of species that ever lived are extinct. This does not mean failure. It means completion. Species exist for a while, shape the world, then vanish. Their influence remains. If humans disappear one day, they will not vanish without trace. Cities will erode. Satellites will decay. But chemical signatures will remain. Fossils of technology may exist. Future species may study us the way we study ancient hominins. They will reconstruct our story from fragments. Human evolution, then, is not a story moving toward perfection. It is a story moving through time, like every species before us. This perspective changes how we see ourselves. We are not the goal of evolution. We are a phase. A very interesting phase. But still a phase. This realization can feel uncomfortable. But it can also be freeing. It removes the pressure to be final, to be perfect, to be permanent. Evolution does not demand permanence. It values adaptability. And humans, above all, are adaptable. When we talk about human evolution, we often focus on bones, tools, fire, and technology. But one of the most powerful outcomes of evolution is something invisible: the human mind. The human brain did not evolve to understand reality objectively. It evolved to help us survive. This distinction matters deeply. Our perceptions are not mirrors of the world. They are filters. Evolution shaped these filters to prioritize survival, not truth. We see patterns even where none exist. We feel fear faster than calm. We remember pain more strongly than pleasure. These are not flaws. They are adaptations. For early humans, missing a real threat meant death. Seeing a threat that wasn't real only meant caution. So evolution favored false positives. This is why humans are naturally anxious. Why superstition appears across cultures. Why myths arise again and again. The same brain that helped us survive predators now reacts to social rejection, financial insecurity, and abstract future fears, as if they were physical threats. Evolution does not update instantly. Another deep evolutionary inheritance is storytelling. Humans do not just experience events. They narrate them. We turn life into stories with causes, meanings, and endings. This ability evolved because stories transmit survival knowledge efficiently. "Don't go near that river" becomes a myth. "Be careful of strangers" becomes a legend. Stories are memory compressed into meaning. As human groups grew larger, stories became more than survival tools. They became identity tools. Shared stories created tribes. Shared beliefs created unity. This is how culture stabilizes. But culture also competes. Ideas spread the way genes do. Some ideas survive because they help groups cooperate. Others survive because they manipulate fear, hope, or belonging. This is cultural evolution. Human evolution, then, has two tracks. Biological evolution, slow, genetic, physical. Cultural evolution, fast, mimetic, psychological. Right now, cultural evolution dominates. This explains why the modern world feels unstable. Culture evolves faster than our nervous systems can handle. Beliefs shift in decades. Technology shifts in years. But our brains are still adapted to tens of thousands of years ago. This creates tension. Humans crave certainty. But reality keeps changing. Evolution never prepared us for global awareness, constant news, or digital identities. From an evolutionary lens, many modern struggles are side effects, not defects. Loneliness in cities, anxiety in safety, burnout in abundance. These are symptoms of mismatch. Another deep aspect of human evolution is cooperation. Humans survived not because they were strongest, but because they cooperated flexibly. Trust, empathy, fairness. These are evolutionary strategies. But cooperation always coexists with competition. Within groups, cooperation dominates. Between groups, competition rises. This duality is ancient. Understanding this helps us see history differently. Wars are not proof that humans are bad. Peace is not proof that humans are good. Both are expressions of evolutionary context. Change the environment, and behavior changes. Human morality itself evolved. What feels right or wrong is influenced by survival value, care for children, loyalty to group, suspicion of outsiders. These instincts predate laws and philosophy. Yet humans are unique in one way. We can reflect on our instincts. We can choose not to act on them. This ability did not erase evolution. It layered on top of it. Reflection creates responsibility. Once a species can understand its own nature, it becomes accountable for how it uses it. This is new in Earth's history. We are the first species to ask, why do we behave this way? Should we continue? Can we change? This brings human evolution to a critical phase. Not survival-based evolution, but self-directed evolution. Humans are no longer only shaped by nature. They are shaping themselves. Through education, through technology, through values. This does not mean evolution is over. It means evolution has become conscious. And consciousness changes the rules. As human evolution reached the stage of self-awareness, a new tension appeared. A tension no other species has ever experienced. The tension between instinct and choice. For millions of years, behavior followed biology. Fear meant danger. Hunger meant food. Attraction meant reproduction. There was no question. But modern humans can pause. They can reflect. They can override instincts. This ability did not replace evolution. It complicated it. Free will, as humans experience it, exists inside evolutionary boundaries. We do not choose our instincts. We choose how to respond to them. This is a subtle but powerful distinction. Evolution built emotional systems first. Reason came later. This is why emotions feel automatic, and logic feels effortful. The brain evolved in layers. The oldest parts manage survival. The middle layers manage emotion and social behavior. The newest layers manage abstract thinking. These layers do not always agree. Much of human inner conflict comes from this disagreement. Instinct says one thing, culture says another, reflection says something else entirely. This inner conflict is not a flaw. It is evidence of evolutionary transition. Humans are in between stages. Not purely instinct-driven. Not fully rational. This explains why humans struggle with self-control. Why habits are hard to break. Why knowledge does not always change behavior. Evolution never required perfect control. It required sufficient survival. Another deep outcome of human evolution is conscious suffering. Animals feel pain, but humans suffer. Suffering requires memory, anticipation, and narrative. Humans replay the past. They imagine the future. They attach meaning to experience. This capacity is inseparable from intelligence. The same brain that can imagine beauty can imagine loss. The same mind that can plan can worry. Evolution did not separate these traits. They come together. This raises an uncomfortable truth. Human intelligence did not evolve to make us happy. It evolved to make us effective. Happiness is a byproduct, not a goal. Understanding this reframes many modern questions. Why aren't we satisfied even when safe? Why does success not guarantee peace? Why does comfort not eliminate anxiety? Because the brain is still scanning for threats. From an evolutionary perspective, constant contentment would be dangerous. A satisfied organism stops adapting. Yet humans now live in environments where constant alertness is exhausting. This creates a new evolutionary pressure. The pressure to regulate the mind. Practices like reflection, meditation, philosophy, and therapy are not modern inventions in spirit. They are cultural tools to manage an ancient nervous system. Human evolution has reached a point where survival depends less on physical adaptation and more on psychological integration, learning to live with our own minds. Another key evolutionary shift is long-term thinking. Most animals live in the present. Humans live across time. We plan decades ahead. We worry about generations. This ability allowed civilization, but it also created existential anxiety, the awareness of death, the fear of meaninglessness. Evolution never prepared humans to know they will die. That knowledge emerged accidentally. As intelligence increased, this awareness reshaped culture, religion, philosophy, art. All are responses to evolutionary awareness. From this view, culture is not separate from evolution. It is evolution's response to self-awareness. Now consider this carefully. Human evolution produced a species capable of questioning its own existence. This is unprecedented. At this stage, evolution changes again. Selection is no longer just about survival and reproduction. It becomes about values, ethics, collective decisions. Humans decide which traits are encouraged, which behaviors are rewarded, which futures are pursued. Evolution has entered the realm of intention. This does not mean humans are in control. It means they are participants. This participation is unstable. Some choices improve long-term survival. Others threaten it. Climate change, weapons, resource depletion. These are evolutionary challenges, created by intelligence itself. From deep time, this moment is critical. Either humans learn to cooperate, at scales larger than instinct, or evolution will correct the imbalance, without concern for human comfort. Evolution is not cruel. It is indifferent. This realization is sobering, but also empowering, because awareness creates choice. Humans are the first species that might influence its evolutionary path consciously. But consciousness does not guarantee wisdom. That must be learned. As intelligence increased, something subtle but important began to separate in human evolution. Intelligence and wisdom are not the same thing. Evolution selected strongly for intelligence. Problem solving, prediction, tool-making, social manipulation. These traits directly improved survival. Wisdom, however, was not directly selected. Wisdom is slower. It requires restraint. It requires seeing beyond immediate advantage. Evolution does not favor restraint easily. This explains why humans can invent powerful technologies before fully understanding their consequences. Fire came before fire safety. Weapons came before ethics. Industry came before environmental awareness. Evolution favors capability first. Understanding comes later. Human history reflects this pattern again and again. Expansion before balance. Consumption before sustainability. Power before responsibility. This is not because humans are bad. It is because evolution optimized us for short-term success in small groups, not long-term planetary stewardship. Now consider something important. For most of evolutionary history, no species ever needed to care about the future of the planet. Their impact was limited. Humans are the first species whose collective behavior can alter global systems, climate, oceans, atmosphere. This places humans in a completely new evolutionary position. Evolution has never tested a species like this before. There is no blueprint. From a deep evolutionary view, humanity may be a transition species, a bridge between unconscious biological life and conscious planetary influence. Not a final form, not a destination, a phase. Transition species are unstable by nature. They exist at turning points. They either adapt to their new role, or are replaced by systems that do. This is not a prediction of doom. It is a description of pattern. Evolution removes what cannot stabilize itself. Now zoom out again. If humans succeed in integrating intelligence with wisdom, they may persist far longer than any previous species. If they fail, evolution will continue without them. Either way, evolution does not stop. This perspective changes how we think about meaning. Meaning does not come from permanence. No species is permanent. Meaning comes from participation, from contributing to the unfolding of complexity. From this view, human culture, art, science, and ethics are not separate from evolution. They are its current expression. Evolution began with chemistry, then cells, then nervous systems, then awareness. Now it is experimenting with reflection. This does not guarantee progress. It guarantees change. Another deep point often missed. Evolution does not move toward better. It moves toward viable. What survives is what fits conditions. If conditions change, so does success. This is why dominance is temporary. Dinosaurs dominated for millions of years. They were not less evolved. They were adapted to their time. Humans are adapted to this time. That does not make them immune. Understanding this removes arrogance and replaces it with perspective. Humans are impressive, but not exceptional in the cosmic sense. They are exceptional locally, and that is enough. Human evolution has already reshaped the planet. The next stage is internal. Learning to regulate desire. Learning to coordinate at scale. Learning to align intelligence with long-term thinking. These are evolutionary challenges, not moral slogans. Culture is now the fastest evolving system on Earth. Faster than genes. Faster than ecosystems. If culture evolves without wisdom, it destabilizes biology. If it evolves with wisdom, it may protect it. This is where the story is now. Not finished. Not resolved. Open. At some point, every intelligent species must face a question that evolution itself does not answer. The question of purpose. Evolution explains how humans came to be. It explains why certain traits survived. But it does not explain what we are for. This absence of built-in purpose often feels uncomfortable. Humans evolved to look for intention, agency, design. In nature, intention usually meant another organism, a predator, a rival, a mate. So the mind searches for intention everywhere. When humans look at evolution and see no final goal, they often feel lost. But this feeling is not evidence of meaninglessness. It is evidence that meaning is not supplied automatically. Evolution does not give meaning. It gives capacity. Capacity to feel, to reflect, to care, to choose. Meaning emerges from how those capacities are used. This is a crucial shift. Earlier species did not need meaning. They simply existed. Humans, because of self-awareness, experience existence differently. They ask, why am I here? What should I do with this life? What matters? These questions are not evolutionary mistakes. They are evolutionary side effects of reflection. From a deep time perspective, meaning is not something discovered. It is something constructed. Not artificially, but relationally. Meaning exists between beings, between actions and consequences, between present choices and future outcomes. Evolution does not care if life feels meaningful, but humans do, and that caring itself is an evolved trait. This leads to an important realization. If evolution has no ultimate goal, then humans are not failing by not knowing the point. There may be no point beyond participation. Participation in relationships. Participation in culture. Participation in learning and adaptation. In deep time, species that persist are not those that dominate the hardest. They are those that integrate best. With environment. With each other. With limits. Human history often celebrates conquest. But evolution favors balance. Conquest burns energy quickly. Balance sustains systems. From this lens, many human crises are not signs of collapse, but signs of transition. Old strategies meeting new conditions. Tribal instincts meeting global reality. Short-term thinking meeting long-term consequences. Evolution never promised comfort during transition. It only promises that what adapts continues. Now consider this quietly. For the first time in Earth's history, a species can understand its own evolutionary origins. Humans can see where they came from. They can anticipate where they might be going. This awareness changes responsibility. Ignorance once protected species from anxiety. Awareness creates burden. But it also creates possibility. Evolution gave humans hands. Culture gave them tools. Awareness gave them choice. What happens next depends not on destiny, but on decisions made collectively. This does not mean individuals control evolution. It means patterns of behavior matter. What societies reward, what systems encourage, what values spread. These become the new selection pressures. From this perspective, education, empathy, and long-term thinking are not just moral ideals. They are evolutionary strategies. Human evolution has reached a stage where survival depends less on physical adaptation and more on psychological and social maturity. This is rare, possibly unique. But uniqueness does not guarantee survival. Only adaptation does. Understanding this does not require despair. It invites humility, and humility is adaptive. When humans begin to think in deep time, something very subtle changes in the mind. Fear becomes quieter. Most human fears are short-term. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. These fears make sense in small, immediate contexts. But deep time stretches perspective. When you see yourself as part of a process millions of years long, individual moments lose their sharpness, not their importance, their urgency. Human evolution teaches us this quietly. Nothing that exists is meant to stay unchanged. Not bodies, not cultures, not ideas, not even species. Change is not a problem to solve. It is the condition of being alive. From an evolutionary view, death is not an error. It is a mechanism. Without death, evolution stops. Without endings, nothing new can stabilize. This is difficult for human minds, because awareness creates attachment. We want continuity. We want permanence. But evolution works through replacement, not cruelty, efficiency. This reframes how we understand mortality. A human life is not small because it ends. It is meaningful because it participates. Just as a single cell matters in a body, even though it does not last forever. Evolution is not a competition to be remembered. It is a flow of forms. Some forms last longer. Some leave deeper traces. But all are temporary. Human consciousness adds a new layer here. We know we are temporary. That knowledge hurts. But it also deepens experience. Moments matter because they pass. Relationships matter because they change. Choices matter because they shape what comes next. From deep time, human love, art, and curiosity are not trivial. They are rare. Not because humans are special, but because awareness is rare. Evolution produced billions of organisms. Very few can reflect on existence itself. That does not make humans the goal. It makes them a window, a brief moment where the universe looks back at its own history. This does not assign destiny. It assigns context. When humans argue about meaning, about purpose, about identity, they are expressing an evolutionary transition. Biology gave rise to awareness. Awareness is still learning how to live with itself. Human evolution did not end with Homo sapiens. It continued into psychology, into culture, into ethics. And now, it continues into responsibility. Responsibility is not a moral command. It is a consequence of power. When a species can change the planet, it inherits the consequences of its actions. This is not punishment. It is feedback. Evolution always works through feedback. What destabilizes systems is removed. What stabilizes systems persists. Humans are now inside that loop consciously. This is why the future of human evolution depends less on strength or intelligence, and more on restraint, coordination, and foresight. Traits that were once optional are becoming essential. From this perspective, kindness is not weakness. Cooperation is not idealism. Long-term thinking is not naive. They are adaptive responses to a world shaped by intelligent agents. Human evolution has reached a reflective phase. A phase where understanding our origins helps guide our direction. Not perfectly, not easily, but deliberately. When we look back across the entire arc of human evolution, from simple cells to reflective minds, one thing becomes clear. Nothing was guaranteed. Life did not have to become complex. Complex life did not have to become intelligent. Intelligence did not have to become self-aware. And self-awareness did not have to ask questions. Yet here we are. Human evolution was not guided by a plan. It was shaped by conditions. Random variation. Environmental pressure. Time. Again and again, forms appeared. Most disappeared. A few continued. Humans are one of those continuations. Not chosen. Not central. Just compatible. Compatible with a certain climate. Compatible with social cooperation. Compatible with learning and memory. From that compatibility emerged language. From language emerged culture. From culture emerged history. And from history emerged reflection. At this stage, human evolution turns inward. The next adaptations are not about sharper teeth or stronger muscles. They are about understanding limits. The limits of growth. The limits of consumption. The limits of control. Evolution teaches a quiet lesson here. Systems that ignore limits collapse. Systems that respect limits persist. This applies to bodies, ecosystems, and civilizations alike. Humans often fear being just another species. But this fear comes from misunderstanding. Being part of a process does not reduce value. It gives context. A single wave is not the ocean. But without waves, the ocean is still. A single life is not evolution. But without lives, evolution is nothing. Human meaning does not come from being eternal. It comes from being present. From shaping the moment we are part of. From responding wisely to the conditions we inherit. When evolution produced awareness, it did not create certainty. It created responsibility. The responsibility to notice, to care, to choose carefully. The future of human evolution is not written in genes alone. It is written in behavior, in how societies organize, in what they reward, in what they protect. This does not mean humans control evolution completely. It means they are no longer unconscious participants. They are awake inside the process. And awakening is always unstable at first. Confusing. Uncomfortable. Full of contradictions. But it is also full of possibility. From deep time. Human anxiety, curiosity, creativity, and compassion are not flaws. They are signs of a species learning how to live with awareness. One day, humans will be gone. Just as earlier human species are gone. That does not erase what happened. Nothing in evolution is wasted. Each form leaves traces. In matter. In chemistry. In influence. Human evolution is not a climb toward perfection. It is a movement toward understanding. Understanding that we are temporary. Understanding that we are connected. Understanding that survival alone is not enough. And perhaps that understanding is the most evolved trait of all. This is where the story rests. Not finished. Not resolved. But complete in its moment. From ancient cells to modern minds, human evolution is the story of matter, learning to reflect. And for now, that reflection continues.